Welcome, my friends. Today is Sunday Seashell Sermon. I'm Beverly Nickerson. I'm a sensitive. I'm a seashell reader. I'm on the shamanic path. And I'm a Scorpio. And it is Scorpio season. Today is October 27th, Sunday, 2024. And I have a collective message. I was inspired to start this Sunday Seashell sermon. Say that 5 times fast. And I'm using the Ocean Oracle deck. If you don't know, this is the Ocean Oracle deck. Over 200 seashells in this deck. And I just randomly pulled 2 seashells to share with you today about the collective energy that's going on Gaia. And then I dusted off a deck that I haven't really looked at for years. It's called Beyond Lemuria. Beyond Lemuria. And Lemuria was a place here on our blue planet Earth where we lived in harmony with nature. We lived in harmony with the animals and the plants and the crystals. The air was pure, the water was pure. We weren't warring with each other at that moment. And so right now we are going, and again, I'm not an astrologer, but I love to watch astrology. I don't understand all the intricacies of it. I know that I'm a Scorpio Cancer rising, and that's double water. And I know that Saturn is in Pisces for the next 3 years, which is called for major floods, which we have seen. And I was devastated with the news of Asheville, which is like a mecca for a lot of high vibe healers and what's happening all over the world. But this is a cleansing. And any of you that are in a female body or woman's body, and have given birth in this lifetime, you know that part of giving birth is going through what they call transition. And transition is a chaotic time. It's when you're not really ready to push out this beautiful, innocent, incredible being that has been gestating in your womb for 9 months. It's not quite that time. But the contractions are so intense. Your back may hurt. You may feel like you have to poop, and that's embarrassing because, you're not in the woods squatting like we did as indigenous women. You're in a hospital setting, possibly, unless you're lucky, like some of my friends that were in a beautiful pool with whale music in the background and a divine masculine massaging you. That's the ideal. Or even making, the guttural sounds that you need to help with that. That's not what's happening for most people on the planet right now. Most people on the planet, if you haven't noticed, and I don't recommend watching any mainstream media because they want you to be in fear. They want you to be nervous all the time. They want you to be angry at one group of people, whether it's the reds or the blues or the whites or the blacks, or the billionaires, the royals, or the average people. Like, they're just pitting all these people against each other, and only a few percent, maybe 1%, benefits from the chaos of people against each other. The good news is, I do have some good news coming to you straight from the Ocean Oracle, and I do readings. So if you would like a personal reading, we can do it on Zoom, or if you live in the DMV area, we can do it in person. And I have you pick 8 to 10 seashells that you're attracted to, and it's a little difficult sometimes because there's so many beautiful seashells, but I don't want you to overthink it or overanalyze each shell. Just kind of like maybe take a seashell, like a sea salt bath to really cleanse yourself. Put some ocean music on or binaural beats music on. Pick 8 to 10 seashells that you're attracted to, and 3 to 4 that you're like, I'm not attracted to them. Matter of fact, I think these seashells are ugly. They give me the creeps. And then it comes together as a whole story of what's going on. It doesn't matter what the question is. It should be a broad question, or most people just say, what do I need to know today? So that's what I did. I just asked, what do I need to know today? And what do the people out here need to know today that would encourage them? There's an election coming up, and I live 30 minutes from DC, so that energy kind of bleeds in to Reston, even though I spend a lot of time in the woods hugging trees and doing my writing. But the energy is pretty intense. Sometimes I can't even sleep. So if you're having problems sleeping, I recommend making some herbal concoctions to sleep and starting your morning. This is my antidepressant, and it's pure 100% cacao, which is basically chocolate that's unadulterated without a lot of sugar. I put a little bit in the Vitamix, and I add a spoonful of cinnamon and turmeric and black pepper, and then I might add some wildflower honey, and I drink that in the morning after I've drank some water, and that's my antidepressant. Creates a train in the brain that gives me a serotonin uptake. So if I'm on YouTube watching one of my favorite astrologers like the Leo King or Lada, or there's a Vedic astrologer that I like, sidereal astrologer, Joni Petrie, she's been around for years. They've been very accurate with what's happening. So when I'm watching them, sometimes other videos will pop up on my feed, and it'll be shocking images, just shocking. It'll just be a thumbnail. So anyway, get yourself some high vibe cacao and drink some water and relax through the next, I would say, until March. It's going to be, hold on to your hat, a bit fiery out there. So, Ocean Oracle, What Seashells Reveal About Your True Nature by Michelle Hansen. I took several of her modules, so I've learned a lot, almost like a marine biology class. And my mother used to have a house on Martha's Vineyard, and when we would go into Woods Hole, there was the ocean geographic place there. I forgot the term for it, but I remember hanging out there for a week when I was in 9th grade. So I've always been fascinated with the oceans and the creatures of the oceans. And I did have a mother that created seashell necklaces and earrings. She would cover bottles with them. She'd cover photo albums with them. She would even make like a painting covered with seashells and seaweed, and then like shellac it or something. So she told me she didn't believe in regular therapy because she was from another era, but she said seashells were her therapy. And matter of fact, after learning from Michelle Hansen, they absolutely are. So I got a little dressed up today. I even have a fancy Sony camera, and I have my, my fancy mic. So I'm at another level. I usually just do it on my laptop. So hopefully it's a clear picture and a clear sound. And I just held the seashell cards in my hand. I said, what do we need to know today? And the first one I picked up, you see this? It's called the Tuxedo Urchin. Tuxedo Urchin. Being polished and tactful. Well, when's the last time, if you're a man, you had on a tuxedo? Or a really nice three-piece suit? Or for me, when's the last time I had on like a fancy gown? I can't even remember. It must have been like 25 years ago that I had a real fancy gown on. But, today I put on this beaded little jacket that I got from a friend who is retired and living in France now. And I said, what is this about? Being polished, being tactful. So, there are certain manners that we learn growing up, how to use our fork, what spoon to use when you're meeting somebody. And right now, the times that we're in, it's really important to be mindful of being sensitive and tactful, and not just blurting out something if it's an opposing view of what the other person holds. So case in point, I could be talking to someone in the building. It could just be, hi, how are you? It's a beautiful day, it's fall. And then before you know it, the subject of politics comes up, and they may absolutely be enraged and hate the red side. or they absolutely love the red side. I went to see a client the other day and they love the red side, or they may love the blue side, or, so what I am getting to give to everyone right now is stay out of all political, divisive conversations. So what the seashell means is tuxedos are formal wear designed for occasions that are very special. Of course, like a wedding or, a special conference or something like that. And the polished look and appearance to be very dignified in the event. Now, we know people can wear very dignified clothes, like we have found out, and it starts with a D and ends with an itty, and I won't even bring it up. They can have on a, $100,000 really fancy outfit, and then underneath do the most disgusting, like heart-wrenching, despicable things. But again, I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying, don't just judge a book by its cover. However, going back to the message for us today is that right now, the attraction to this sea urchin, and it's not a seashell, it's actually a sea urchin. So everything in here is not, just a mollusk or a seashell. We've got like even what I'm wearing here, which is the starfish, which is not a seashell. And I'll tell you what that means in a moment. So attraction to this urchin indicates a person who opts to cushion words in an effort to make a difficult statement more palatable. Attraction to this sea urchin is a person who opts to cushion words in an effort to make a difficult statements more palatable. So let me give you an example. Someone may say, have you voted yet? You better get out there and vote, because if you don't vote for this person, we're going to lose our democracy. And a response could be, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. Or thanks for sharing. Thanks for the reminder. So this is the message of the sea urchin. Right now, because of the astrology going on, which is supposedly the same as right before the American Revolution and the Civil War, we are moving into a oneness where it won't matter if you are of African descent, or you're from Native American descent, or if you're Hebrew or Jewish, or you're from the Gaza Strip, it won't matter. It's all oneness. It's all oneness. We're culminating into this beautiful oneness. It's going to take a little more strife, though. So be very tactful and dignified with your words when discussing anything that has to do with the divisive events that are happening on the political arena and stage. Okay, so you got that. Seashell number 165, the tuxedo urchin. Now the next one, hope you can see it well, it's the masculated dwarf triton. Masculated dwarf triton, which means being drained, interacting with people or persons that are similar to an archetype of a vampire. Okay, let me say that again. Being drained, interacting with an exhausting person, a human vampire. And some people say that full-fledged narcissists, they're human vampires. There are groups of people right now that if you listen into their rhetoric, you will feel absolutely, especially if you're like me, you're a sensitive, you'll feel absolutely drained after listening to it. So the good news is this is a friendly reminder not to listen to the mainstream media, because it is designed to drain you of energy and keep you hopeless. So let's see what else Michelle Hansen has to say about this, because the way these seashell cards work is there's usually like a sentence or sometimes just a couple of words about what the seashell means, and then she goes more into depth in the book. And sometimes it's like a whole page that she's written about it. This one is pretty, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's like stay away from energy vampires, draining rhetoric, draining people, and even like if you're like me, you're totally empathetic, don't watch anything that has to do with the wars right now. That doesn't mean light a white candle, sending light, fasting all day and praying for peace in Gaza and Israel and Ukraine and Russian, because it doesn't matter to me if I see a Russian soldier that's been, you know, maimed with his child and his dog, or it's a Ukraine soldier. I mean, I feel it equally, and that's what we're all graduating to, that we're all one. And so, like, you know, I'm not gonna, what's that statement? Don't cut off your nose to spite your face. So we're all part of the spark of the divine. So let's see, what does this mean? Okay, well, the dwarf tritons, I'll tell you a little bit about them. They actually are parasitic. So a dwarf triton, let's say there's a shark, and you know how like dangerous sharks are, and they have a little bit of an open wound. This mollusk will kind of bury itself into that open wound and just suck the blood out of the shark. So this tiny little shell can just make a huge shark sicker and sicker and sicker. Photographs have captured one triton penetrating through the mucus barrier of a sleeping parrotfish and another probing a shark's scar tissue. Both animals are intent on sucking the host's blood to obtain its nutrients. Let me repeat that, sucking its blood to obtain its nutrients. In human terms, vampire behavior occurs when someone drains another of energy. Yeah. So, put up your protections. I connect myself to the core of the earth, which is the magma, the heat of the earth. I connect myself to the masculine sun. I put a bubble around me. I call in the 4 directions, call in my angels, my guides, my ancestors every single day. And I also do the Kundalini Yoga breath work, which increases my life force. And I'll go like this for like 5 minutes, which pumps the air in and out of the belly. And I hold my thumbs like this, and I visualize a beautiful arc of light all around me. So when I go out and I walk into a room, I'm giving light, even if there had just been a terrible argument there. So I really suggest that you pull out your toolbox and do as much as you can to amp yourself up. So that's the second one. Now I'm doing something unusual today. Beyond Lemuria. And this is by Izzy Ivy, I-Z-Z-Y, Ivy. Beautiful artwork. I mean, the artwork is stunning. Matter of fact, it kind of matches what I have on today. So that works out good. And so I just shuffled through and I said, what does the collective need to know? What do I need to know? So I can get through at least till the election day. Yum, yum, yum. Love that cacao. Excuse me. I put a little bit of cayenne pepper. I don't like cayenne pepper, but I know it's really good for me to, you know, and it's good for everyone as much as you can bear, because then you sweat out any viruses that you may encounter while you're out and about. Wearing a mask over your face doesn't do it, especially if you're touching a bunch of things in the grocery store and then touching the mask. It's just absolutely does not work. So we have to build up our immune system from the inside out. And if you ever need any advice on holistic and natural medicine, I have a lot of good advice, and I even have the top holistic practitioners in the DMV that I have been promoting probably since 1998. So if you want a homeopath or a naturopath or an acupuncturist or someone that does cranial sacral or you know, you need affirmations. I've been a Louise Hay student since the 90s. So yeah, I have a lot of good information, even if you're not interested in a seashell reading. And even if you don't live in the DMV area, I have practitioners now, like my naturopath who's an acupuncturist, but he's also a Tui Na master and a master herbalist. He could do his first session with you, or just a couple sessions just through Zoom, and send you the herbs. So, okay. This is the beautiful card that I got. It's card number 26 in Beyond Lemuria. And again, Lemuria is when we lived in harmony. It was right before Atlantis. And most of the people were of melanin complexion, and they worked with crystals and nature, and it really was a beautiful place. And that's what we're focused on creating again. And that's exactly what this card is about. So, creating heaven on earth by honoring the perfection of nature's cycle. You got that? Nature's cycle, birth and death. Out on the porch right now is pulp from juicing. All the juicing gives life. My son has got this big thing out there full of pulp, and then he puts in some leaves, and then that will decompose, even though I was a little concerned about gnats flying around, but you know, he took care of that with diatomaceous earth and natural stuff, nothing that kills plants. And that decomposing concoction will help new microgreens to grow. So that's really kind of cool. Okay, so it says, creating heaven on earth by honoring the perfection of nature's cycle, going beyond the judgments of good and bad, a merging of duality, raw nature, raw wisdom, connecting to the ancestors, shadows as the fertile soil for exponential growth. The way towards is the whispering of the land and honoring the full spectrum of life. So I have an altar with my ancestors on there. I give them little offerings. That's helping tremendously. I have some Native American on my mother's side, some Jamaican, African on my dad's side. I have some, noble English and some really cool Irish as well, some Celtic. And so I call on these ancestors, and they don't have a problem with me. They're not like, oh, you're not full Irish, so I don't like you. I mean, they really want to help. They wish they could be in the body right now during the birthing of the new earth as of November 19th. Okay, Pluto is leaving Capricorn, and we're going into Aquarius, and that is air. And I'm communicating with you through the airways. Okay, so that's the light side of Aquarius. So if you want more about the astrology, again, go on to Joni Patrice, she'll give you the real deal. But what I'm getting here is, what does heaven on earth look like? So if enough of us create this image of heaven on earth, and you can, if you're more of an artist, you can get pastels, you can paint what it looks like. For me, I'm more into automatic writing with Michael Sandler. So I'm writing, what does earth that has heaven brought down to it look like? Not, I have to die and then go to heaven, or I'm a dirty sinner and I'm lucky that I can even go to heaven. No, it's bringing the earth, that's what 5D is, here on Gaia, our blue planet, before it turns into the red planet like Dune. And that's not going to happen, but it looks a little gnarly right now. And according to this, I'm going to read a little bit more. Do you imagine lush green nature? I mean, I've got pictures of the Amazon rainforest. I stayed there for 9 days. I love the rainforest, even with its snakes and spiders. Ancient forests, pristine beaches, crystalline water systems, and all the planet's residents being in full health, living in harmony with each other. And yet, nature in its purest, rawest form, it is a balance of life and death, growth and decomposition, the eaters and the eaten, and in another way, with the natural flux of life. We already live in Eden, but our efforts to own and segregate bring us further away from the paradigm. There are a lot of people on power trips. There are a lot of people that just want to hoard the resources. There are a lot of people that want to hold on to the unhealthy masculine. And when I say that, it has nothing to do with a male-bodied person, because you could be a female-bodied person and be an unhealthy masculine and be a hoarder of resources and do catastrophic things on the planet just so your corporation can make more money without any regard to how you're affecting other living beings, including the animals. So when I say masculine, feminine, remember, I'm not discriminating at all against males. I love masculine-bodied men, and I love, you know, female-bodied women. And if you are, you know, gay, it's fine with me. I'm into everybody. I love everybody. I love everybody. Okay, so, and yet nature in its purest, rawest form is a balance of life and death, growth and decomposition, the eaters and the eaten, in a way or another. This is the natural flux. We already live in Eden, but our efforts to own and segregate bring us further away from the paradigm. The power trips, the need for imagined security, the fear or avoidance of the shadow keep us from our freedom. Right now, I don't know what you know about Pluto, but Pluto's like the furthest planet out in our solar system, and I've been having extremely vivid dreams that go all the way back to my childhood. Like I'll find myself at my mother's house on Martha's Vineyard with unsolved things, and they will be solved in that. I'll find myself with my, you know, children's father, unsolved issues, and then they get solved. So anything you haven't dealt with consciously is coming up individually and on the collective. And that's why there's all this stuff coming up about racism as well. Unfortunately, you know, the term that was used in the 70s for me, someone called me a mulatto, and my friend Milagros Phillips, who wrote a wonderful book about healing racism. And she said, look up what mulatto means. And it was a term that the Spaniards made up. And mulatto actually means mule. And a mule is sterile. It can't have children. And so in the mid 1400s, you know, when the conquistadors started going to different places in the world, like Africa and South America, they actually were told that if they fell in love with a brown-bodied person, okay, so they could be an indigenous person of South America, they could be an African woman, they could be in India, they could be in Pakistan, they could be in Arabia. If you fell in love with them and you had offsprings, their offsprings were mulattoes and they were mules. So none of your riches and none of your class, so if you were, you know, a big landowner in Spain, could go to them. I mean, yuck. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, whoa. So anyway, I digress. So knowing these things, you know, that's coming to surface, then it's like, okay, I have indelible rights to the land just as much as you do, right? So the need to preserve and hold on tightly only stunts the growth and leaves us drowning in a sea of plastic. So there are a few beings that are holding on for dear life to own most of the planet. And I won't mention their names, but kind of rhymes with 8, if you get what I'm saying. Rhymes with 8, but you just put a G in front of it. What are they doing? What is he doing? Okay. Life happens, but it's our perception of good and bad or black and white judgments that prevent us from seeing the truth. And that's another thing too. It's like observe what's going on, but making one group of people bad and making another good. We have to get to this point of non-judgment and neutrality, because whatever you damn damns you back. So whatever I don't like about you, it's something still in my subconscious. When duality becomes one, we will find Shambhala before us. Perhaps we can find inspiration from mature nature and animal kingdom. Well, I remember, I don't know if it was in the 90s, maybe it was in the late 90s, and I read the book Celestine Prophecy. I believe there was another one about Shambhala. It's really just a beautiful dimension that's right here on Earth. And I know that there will be all these little light cells popping up all over the planet where people will be at a higher vibration, living in harmony with nature, living together. There may be elders raising the grandkids while the young people go off to work and the kids aren't just stuck in a daycare all day. Things like that are developing all over the planet. And I really like the way she writes this part. Does a tiny frog spend days anxious over the vulnerable future? I mean, there were times, 10 years ago, I was like, oh my God, the S is going to hit the fan. I've got to start, getting more rice, getting more this, getting more that. And I would have anxiety, and the anxiety would cause illness. So I'm super healthy with like what I eat and working out, but the worrying. So I've let go of a lot of worry. That doesn't mean I don't have batteries in my flashlight or some other things that just in case there is a grid that's going to go out. They say the grid might go out right after the election because of the very divisive, whoever wins, it's going to be divisive. But it's not about worry. It's about visioning the world, the earth, the Gaia that we want to live in. What happens when we realize fertile compost greets us when we allow ourselves to transmute our pain? Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I got the compost out there, or my son created it, and that's going to be the fertile soil for the microgreens that I'm going to be able to enjoy with him and his partner this winter. Isn't that awesome? That doesn't mean it doesn't look a little messy. There were times I went out there and there was like this huge, what do you call those bugs? Water bug. And instead of freaking out, as I have in the past, I just said, I'll put diatomaceous earth there. So don't freak out when you hear about the things that are going on in the world. When we honor all that has come before, our roots are nourished and we grow with more vitality, vibrancy, and life force. So again, this is the time for ancestral healing, cleaning out the pain. I had a friend call me and she was just going on and on and on, still bringing up things that happened, I don't know, maybe 60 years ago or something. I mean, she's older than me, of course, and so, but like, it was just spin, spin, spin in the head. And I was like, well, what can you do? Can you breathe in 3, exhale 3? Can you do Ho'oponopono? Please forgive me, I love you, thank you. Please forgive me, I love you, thank you. It doesn't mean that you believe that you've done anything necessarily wrong to that person, but it's a way of clearing it. Ho'oponopono, I really recommend playing that over and over right now. You could play it and then focus it on a candidate that you don't like. Please forgive me, I love you, thank you. Please forgive me, I love you, thank you. When you see that candidate speak. Okay. So, what happens when we realize the keys to our future are in the wisdom of the earth and the dreaming of the indigenous? So my tagline with Earthlight Promotions is bringing back indigenous wisdom. So I've hung out with some Caro tribe people off the beaten path outside of Cusco, Peru, and learned some wonderful techniques for healing. They had visions in the 50s of what is now happening and how they had to train the white man. When I say that, it's really the modern people here in North America that hold the eagle energy, how to do these practices so they could reconnect with nature, so that a button would not be pushed and everything would go to oblivion. It's not going to happen. Nothing to worry about, because there are more people out there hugging the trees, and there are more people doing the compost, and there are more people fighting against some of these big pharmaceuticals or big industrial military complex, or what's the other one? Big agriculture that just wants to do monocrops, okay? So there are more people that are not doing that. Okay, That answers that we are in the geometry of the macrocosm and microcosm, nurturing, embracing oneness. What happens when we find peace within the full spectrum? So I'm the microcosm, so I'm going to work on myself, and then when I go out in the world, it will affect the macrocosm. That's the message here. So the notion of separation is disease, us versus them, good versus evil. My particular religion is good, your particular religion is bad. I mean, I'm very eclectic. So I've learned from, hanging out with born-again Christians when I was younger. I've definitely learned from Hebrew or Jewish people when I went to school, mostly Jewish, went to so many bar mitzvahs. I have learned from incredible Buddhists and chanting. I've learned from Sikhs. I've learned a little bit from all of the traditions. I've read about the Essenes. They were very peaceful people. They say that Jesus and Mother Mary, Joseph, they were Essenes. You can learn from all the traditions. Excuse me. Put a little bit too much cayenne pepper. Woo! All right. Even the notion of separation as disease can be symbolized as no more than blackened leaf on a healthy tree. The ebb and the flow of our evolution and the de-evolution is temporary blip in the universe. So if you got a tree, it's got one blackened leaf, that leaf will fall off. So what's going on right now is just like a tiny blip in like the universe, okay? It's not that big of an event. It feels like a big event to us because we're living on Gaia right now and it's 2024, but it's just a blip. The message is to be what we can, to ground heaven and earth here right now in Gaia, and not to live in fear, false evidence appearing real. We often try to avoid and run from negative situations, but when fear steers our decisions and actions are far more devastating than the results. So I've done plant medicine, and I just do a little bit because I'm a sensitive, and I have had to face some absolutely scary situations, and then I release it, and it's gone from my consciousness, so I'm not constantly looking around for the pocketbook snatcher or something if that caused me some kind of post-traumatic stress when I was 14. You just flush it out, and then you're like, oh, I get why you did that. You didn't even know me. It wasn't even personal. You just let it go. Now, if there is a pocketbook snatcher following me down the street, at this point in my life, I will feel them and I will be able to avoid them totally. I even said to a friend, I feel robber energy. And within a week, there were some robbers, but he was okay. So you can feel the energy of a lower vibration being. And when I say, and it's not a judgment, it's just that they're choosing to steal, or, we don't know why they're choosing to steal. We don't know how they grew up. So I'm not judging them as a human being. However, you can feel that energy and sidestep it right now. So here we go. When we choose to let our hearts lead us away from the stories and outdated patterns. What's a story? Oh, when I got married, my husband was da-da-da-da-da-da-da, so now all men are bad. No. We've got to let go of that story and create a new story for ourselves. Or, yeah, it's really hard for me to learn, so that's why I can't make that much money because I didn't do well in school. No. Like any story, it's time to reprogram and get rid of these outdated patterns. And our challenges become fertile compost and feeds our ascending tendrils as they reach the heavens and the ground, and it's back to earth. So the last paragraph is really poignant. The way she has it set up is the last paragraph is the divination meaning, which all of this is divination, but she has this, so I'm going to read this. step out of black and white mentality, you know. I'm considered black and white, you know. Growing up, they called me colored, you know, and you just mix it all together, and it's a really beautiful being. Most of us are. But they are promoting this whole black and white thing. So let go of that. When I say black and white, I don't just mean race, of course. Go beyond the concepts of good and bad. The card invites us to honor the full spectrum of life and find a new way of perceiving the situation that is happening now. When we judge something, we create a story around it. These stories often cease limitation. These stories often, create limitation. They often create limitations. Subsequently, we gather so many of these stories over a lifetime. To heal our dis-ease, and again, I'm a big student of Louise Hay, so dis-ease starts in the spiritual, emotional body, and then it shows up in the physical. I'm not saying that you can't be exposed to some, you know, mold and get very sick, but there's usually an emotional and spiritual reason for all illness, especially illnesses that are degenerative, like arthritis and cancer and all of that, including, absolutely, are you eating low vibration acidic foods? When we judge something, we create a story around it. These stories are often create limitation. Subconsciously, we gather so many of these stories over a lifetime. To heal our disease and crystallize a new way, we need to create space of no story where miracles, healing can happen. This grace empowers us to be all that we are and allows us to know the truth. Embrace the full spectrum of creation in her colors and raw, muddy, earthbound shadow parts of a situation to determine whether they are actually bad or if the stories you have held on to are limiting your perspective. I really like that part. Because what happens is if we just hold on to these stories, we just perpetuate it over and over. So it is time for the human family to let go of all of these stories of victimhood and to focus on the Gaia and the earth that we want to create together, where we're living in harmony with animals and ourselves together. So I'm going to close with just a little recap. Again, I'm Beverly L. Nickerson. I'm a sensitive seashell reader. I'm on the shamanic path, and I'm a Scorpio. Scorpio season. And if you'd like a seashell reading, just reach out to me, DM me. earthlightpromotions.com is my website. And these are the 2 seashells. So stay away from draining people, energy vampires, and anything on the news that is draining. Just stay away from it. Just shut it off. Put on some binaural beats. And this is Tuxedo Urchin. Get dressed up, get polished, and be very tactful if people are bringing up subjects that have to do with good, evil, red, blue, white, black. I'm against this group, I'm against that group. Just be very, very, very conscious of your words right now. And we will get through this, we will get through this. And this is the Beyond Lemuria guidebook. And if you'd like a reading with me, it's very simple to get in touch with me, and I'd love to see you through Zoom or in person. Thank you so much for listening, and we're going to close with my favorite sound, which are the chimes. The chimes remind me of the beach house I spent from, I guess, 1972. I was a little girl, just till 2017. We always had chimes. And up in Massachusetts, it's windy. So there's always some chimes going off. And these chimes that I got, they're the autumn chimes. And we're now in autumn. Enjoy the beautiful fall and autumn, all the colors. Peace and love.